It has been more than 4 years since the House of Commons voted to formally condemn Islamophobia in the wake of shootings at the mosque in Quebec City. Iqra Khalid tabled the motion known as M103. She's an Ontario Liberal MP, and Ms. Khalid is in Mississauga. Ms. Khalid, thank you very much for joining the program today. I want to begin with what would, on any other day, perhaps be a simple question, and I'm sure is filled with complexity today. How are you doing?
I've had better days, David, and I can tell you that the Muslim Canadian community, and in fact all Canadians, have definitely had better days. It's obviously a tragedy, and I'm hoping that we can heal together and come out of it stronger.
I think back 4 years ago in the aftermath of the mosque shooting in Quebec City. One thing that came out of that was your bill, M103, which set to say that Canadians and the government were collectively against Islamophobia. That bill passed. It wasn't binding on the government in any way, but it was also not an easy path. Many Conservatives loudly opposed it, worried that it would impact freedom of speech. Do you think that debate would be different today?
Firstly, it was a motion, not a bill, and you're absolutely right that it was non-binding in nature, calling on our government, whole of government, to work together to combat Islamophobia, as well as all types of systemic racism and religious discrimination in our country. I can only hope that the debate would be different today than it was in 2017, but the reality of the matter is that debate occurred after a devastating massacre of Muslim Canadians in a Quebec mosque. So as much as I'm hopeful and really optimistic that the conversation has moved more towards acceptance, I'm also skeptical, and I understand how much more still needs to be done by all levels of government, by all parties, by individual Canadians on combating Islamophobia in our country.
I want to ask you, do you feel safe? And I ask you as a Muslim politician who has some profile, who is known, who has got threats in the past. Do you feel safe today, right now? It's a challenging time to be a Muslim woman in politics. I'll tell you that. And I can tell you that the community is hurting. I can tell you that I've received hundreds of messages of support from my constituents, from Canadians all across the country. And I'm really determined to do more to make sure that Canadians feel safe, especially Muslim Canadians who are really feeling vulnerable right now. My family looks very much like the family that was massacred, that lost their lives in London, Ontario. And I can tell you that a lot of families are feeling the same. As a leader in our community, I can say that I will do my best to make sure that we're moving towards that path, to make sure that no Canadian feels unsafe. It would be wonderful if we could wave a magic legislative wand and make fear go away. We can't do that. It's tough work. But what are the things that you would like to see your own government do to advance that kind of work?
That's a really good question. And I don't think that it's just what one government can do. And, you know, since the passing of M103, we've had our study on how we can, as a whole of government, work towards combating this type of hatred. We've invested over $23 million into communities that are now able to, using that money, build that capacity to provide that safety to vulnerable Canadians. We've
identified these hate groups festering online as terror organizations in that movement towards providing that safety and towards that work for all Canadians and to end that hate. But I have to say that it's not going to take just one government and a flip of a switch. It's going to take every single person in a leadership position in our country. It's going to take all levels of government. It's going to take individual Canadians to really start understanding and appreciating how hate manifests in our community and what it does to people, to individual Canadians, and how it really prevents us from building and continuing to build that safe, that respectful society that we've become so entitled to as Canadians here.
I want to wrap up by asking you again a bit about your own life. You have grown up in a time where there has been considerable anti-Muslim rhetoric and racism and fear and anger and attacks. When you get to be your parents' age, your grandparents' age, do you think things will be better?
I can only hope that if I have any, my kids, my grandkids, the future generations of our community don't have to go through what I've gone through, what hundreds of Canadians go through every single day in terms of watching what they say, in terms of being careful as to where they're at, always looking over their shoulder. And I have to say that the majority of Canadians understand and appreciate our multicultural society. And I hope that we can really work towards focusing in and eliminating that hate and not letting it fester, and just for the sake of our grandkids, because I want them to live in a peaceful society that doesn't have the same lived experiences that somebody like myself and myself have had over a lifetime.
I want to give you the opportunity to just send a message to the people of London, Ontario, before I let you go.
Thank you for that. And I just say, my heart goes out to you. And I think what really Canadians are feeling right now, that vulnerability, it resonates because we see ourselves in this family that has lost their lives. And I can't begin to imagine what life is going to be like for that 9-year-old boy who's not only dealing with his own injuries right now, but then will have to understand and to live with the reality of what hatred did to his family. We are better than that as communities. And I stand in solidarity with London, Ontario. I stand in solidarity with all Muslim Canadians and just all Canadians. And I know that we are going to get through this, and I will continue to work hard to ensure that we do get through this.
Iqra Khalid, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much for having me here today.
She is now headed to the vigil, which will take place this evening outside the London Muslim Mosque. Federal party leaders also set to be there. That vigil being held for the family killed in a deadly attack, this deadly attack in London, Ontario on Sunday night. An attack that has certainly shaken the country. Police say it was premeditated and that the family was targeted because they are Muslim. Earlier today, Conservative leader Erin O'Toole spoke about that attack in the House of Commons.
Tonight, as the people of London hold a vigil for the family lost to this horrific attack of terror, let us resolve to do more than just grieve. Many Canadians, including one 9-year-old lying in a London hospital bed, need us to do that more than ever.
All right, do more than just grieve. It's certainly something Muslim leaders are calling for in terms of action and not just words. Tim Uppal is the Conservative Caucus liaison, and he joins us from Ottawa. Mr. Uppal, what do you think needs to happen now in terms of action?
Yeah, thank you. I think coming out of this horrible tragedy, this terrorist attack, I think many of us are, the conversations we're having right now are about the family, but also just Canadians need to learn more about each other, look at ways of how can we understand each other better and have greater appreciation for each other, but also weeding out those that have this hatred, these people that that carry these Islamophobic beliefs, and how to identify that and how to find out what's the root of that to be able to stop these people.
There have been race and faith-based attacks over many years, including over the past several years in this country. And one of certainly the most notable of recent times happened in Quebec City. Notable because of the level of the attack, the level of murder that occurred when a man walked into a mosque, an Islamic cultural center in Quebec City, with a gun and began shooting. In the wake of that, Mr. Uppal, there was a motion, a non-binding motion tabled by the Liberals to condemn Islamophobia and all forms of systemic racism. Now, at the time, there was debate about free speech, about how this was coming about, but 86 Conservatives voted against it, including Aaron O'Toole, who would then go on to become leader of the party. In retrospect, do you think that was the right move?
I wasn't a member at the time, and I know that happened about 4 years ago. At the same time, when that debate was happening, as you said, there was a motion by the Conservatives to condemn all forms of religious hatred and systemic racism, and the Liberals didn't vote for that. So looking back, I think the debate might have gone in different directions, but I think really what we need to do now is to look forward and how we as parliamentarians can be a part of the solution. How we can help to create that better understanding between Canadians. And I think that's important for us to do that, for all parties to be able to do that, to move forward.
So what would that be? What is the action that you think is necessary to move forward and to not just hope that something like this doesn't occur again?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's more than grieving for what's happened now, but it is taking action in the sense of education. I think that's going to take all three levels of government to work on that. I think there's programs that can be set up to create that education. Start early. Myself, very much a visible minority person myself, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to people of other faiths, to learn about theirs, and have an opportunity for them to learn more about me. I think when you have that understanding about other people, you appreciate them more. I think this is something that probably needs to happen at a younger age. So then as you grow older, you don't believe what you see on the internet. You don't believe other things that might make you feel create this hatred that's been created in some people for a certain group of people. I think that the education piece is key.
You note that you yourself are a member of a visible minority community, and as we are certainly focusing rightly on the violence that has taken place, not just against this Muslim family, but against many Muslims right across this country in repeated incidents, some of which are reported, others are not, some which get attention, others that are not. What has been your own experience as a member of Parliament, as an elected member, as somebody in the spotlight, but also somebody who lives in this country and faces the potential of threat or fear or danger?
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe, being born and raised here, that we live in the most amazing country that has given people of different backgrounds amazing opportunities. But we do have racism in our country. It does exist. I've experienced it. Unfortunately, my children have experienced it, and so these are things that we need to address. We need to address it as a government, to take real action. But we also address it as individuals, as parents, and to have these conversations. And it's an unfortunate conversation when you have to have that with your children, that this is something that's happened. Even this terrorist attack that's happened now, and previous ones, we've had to have those conversations with our children. And they're very difficult to have, and you have to discuss why that because of who you are, that somebody may hate you. Because of that, and it's difficult. So I think it's one of the reasons why I'm in public service is to be able to address that, or to bring that viewpoint to the table.
Mr. Ruppel, thank you for your time this afternoon. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.